Welcome back to Key Point. We're also live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com, also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and W93.5 in Wa and beyond. This one here from Simon says, as a parliamentary reporter, I can tell you for a fact that almost all CEOs who splash money in order to get elected as parliamentary candidates always regret entering parliament. However, it's shocking that these same people will go for all sorts of loans to retain their office they regret entering into. Simon, thank you very much indeed. And Simon is one of the experienced parliamentary reporters I know as far back as 2007 when I was, yes, Simon is the Dean of the Parliamentary Press Corps. 2007 when I was reporting from Parliament. This one here says that James Afedo, lawyer James Afedo, I get your message. This one is with no name, says, good morning, Alfred. He says, lawyer sold his house because he knows about the benefits derived from.
Baby.
Thank you. Prince Henry from Kofredia, thank you for the message as well. It says that corruption is one thing that we are not doing well in fighting. Thank you. And the many of you who have sent us messages. 963. Thank you very much for the messages this morning. Appreciate it. The Electoral Commission has clarified that over 50% of the political parties, according to them, have approved their proposal to hold this year's presidential and parliamentary elections in November. That was at an IPAC meeting held this week, specifically on Monday. The NDC and some other political parties have rejected this proposal from the electoral management body for polls to be open in November instead of the conventional December timeline. This is not the first time we've had this conversation. In fact, in 2016, the Attorney General at the time, Marietta Bureau-Pierpont, was in Parliament for this same purpose. And it was subjected to a secret balloting. The NDC at the time was pushing for this. They lost that battle in Parliament. It didn't happen. And the Electoral Commission is bringing it up again. Now, the concern, one of the concerns that's been raised by those who are not in support of this proposal is that, as we speak, the electoral calendar for this election year has not been published as yet by the Electoral Commission. So we talk about moving the elections from December to November when we don't know exactly what we're working towards. That's concerning. I want to take your thoughts on this.
Yeah, true. We need to even enact the CI that will guide us through the election that has not been enacted. So if that is the concern, it's legitimate. But if the Electoral Commission can bring the CI and make sure the various amendments are done within the law, there's nothing that should stop them from pushing for the November. The November election, I'm sure both parties agree that it will be the best to do, except that the concern being raised is also legitimate. We have to accept it. In the past, you're saying that NDC had proposed it and NPP rejected it. Why would they reject it? So this thing of dancing around the same concept, when you are here, your message is different. When you are there, your message, that is not good enough. Personally, I think we need to come to terms with that reality that we need some time for the transition. So if we conduct the election in November or December, it doesn't bring any special advantage to any of them. But if it gives us time to be able to manage a good transition, why not? But again, the concerns of whoever, I'm not saying that it is minority people, but concerns also must be addressed. If we want to do it at that time, let us seek the amendment of the various, and one of them is constitutional. Let's seek the amendment and then also enact the constitutional instrument which will come before us. Interestingly, myself and Roxy, we are members of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee, and the law will come before us. So let us also expedite the process and get it done so that we are ready constitutionally and statutorily and also in terms of logistics. Let's also not lose sight of the fact that when we bring it forward, it means budgetary issues ought to be settled before we come to November. Let us not get to November and throw our hands in the air and say that the budget has not been disbursed. So we look at the legal framework and let's look at also the logistical requirements. Make sure we are ready for November 7th. I don't want us to think that minority disagrees because majority is making the proposition or majority supports the EC. All of us, let's look at it without any sectional or partisan considerations and do what is best for us. We have operated with the 7th December over time, and if we are coming out with a new suggestion, it means that the 7th December has not been the best to us. So let us look at it dispassionately. And on this note, I'll serve notice of my intention to leave to attend to a parliamentary committee meeting.
Very important.
If it's granted, I say good morning and thank you to
it's
our
granted indeed.
viewers, particularly those of us watching from Asante Achimno. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lamati, people bring at this point on this matter, because when this matter came up in 2016, here's what happened. From the 275 members of parliament who were present, 125 members voted for this November 7 date for the election, while 95 voted against, with 45 being absent from the House. This was in 2016 when Marietta Brewer appeared upon the Attorney General, Minister of Justice at the time, made an attempt to canvass support for the passage of this bill to change the election date from December to November, and contending that the changing the date will ease the stress in government transitions by providing ample time for what Mr. Piakubi just made reference to, issues about transition period, and if there's a runoff, the EC will have some time to prepare and so on. But the minority at the time, I think the spokesperson on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs at the time, Joe Seusu, who is the First Deputy Speaker of Parliament, cast doubt over the preparedness of the Electoral Commission. The same questions that are being raised now. So how do we approach this matter, even in 2024 or beyond?
Okay. Yeah, so, we are still learning about the practical implications of the law, because so far it's very clear that majority of us support that we change, that we amend Article 112 to be able to allow for the early elections. But what I've also learned in this field is that when you find the frontline practitioners beginning to raise queries, then it calls amended in 2028. So I have, as I said, because I'm not a frontline practitioner, when people who are in the field talk, sometimes before we poo-poo their remarks or jettison their ideas, we should seek to understand. So I'm still learning. It's good. Maybe Honorable should have spoken before me. Perhaps I would have gotten better insight. Because what is happening is I heard Dr. Manibuama on one of the Chi stations explaining that no, they don't, the time is too short. Even currently, they want the EC to come out with the election calendar, and the EC hasn't come out yet, and some other things. So I was hoping maybe they would do practical demonstration and practical explanation before I give a verdict. You say, yes, right. Because sometimes you don't want to speak ahead of it. You speak out of 10 when you don't understand. Because on paper, we all agree. And especially as the reason I'm hesitant in saying I want to jettison or discredit the NDC idea is that, like what you've stated, they took the first steps. They took the first initiative in 2016, right? And even presented a bill. So they first brought, they bought into the idea first. And look, to get a bill out there, you have to go to cabinet, etc., spent money on it and the rest. So these are people who have shown that the SDA should be granted their right. But it turned out that in July, that was in July 2016, so the minority at the time said the time was too short. Yes, I reckon this time, this is February. But as I've said, look, let's hear more from the practitioners. They should demonstrate practically how it will affect the planning and preparation of the parties for this year's election, practically, with practical, concrete examples. Once that is done, then we can give our final opinions on it.
Appreciate you.
Yes.
On this, because much people is talking about the practical demonstration of the issues, so as to ensure that whatever final resolution is taken is to the collective benefit of the Ghanaian people. Well,
now, to set this matter properly in focus, let's read what Article 1124 says. Subject to Clause 2 of Article 113 of this Constitution, a general election of members of Parliament shall be held within 30 days before the expiration of the period specified in Clause 1 of that article, and a session of Parliament shall be appointed to commence within 14 days after the expiration of that period. What this says is that for purposes of elections, that for the presidential could be held within 4 months to the expiration of the term of a sitting president. And I think that's contained in Article 63 2. Now, this is what 63 2 says. The election of the president shall be on the terms of a universal adult suffrage, and shall, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, be conducted in accordance with such regulations as may be prescribed by a constitutional instrument by the Electoral Commission, and shall be held so as to begin A, where a president is in office not earlier than 4 months, no later than 1 month before his term of office expires, and B, in any other case within 3 months after the office of president becomes vacant. So in case of B, that's when the president resigns, dies, and all that. But in case of A, so the presidential election by the constitutional stipulation could have even been held in October. All right?
right.
Or even in September.
September, so that's the last
Alright.
time, not earlier
Yes.
than 4.
Yes. Okay.
Not earlier than 4.
Yes. But that is in respect of when he is in office. But by some convention, because it was practiced during the first general election, the first Fourth Republic. So we had the presidential elections first, and had the parliamentary
Election.
I think 1 month apart. But since then we departed, and that was organized by the interim Electoral Commission at the time. So after the first parliament, we decided to converge the election dates for both the president and the members of parliament.
Yes.
And because the constitution set the time limit for that of MPs up to 30 days. So it was fixed at 7th of December.
Yes.
Because the life of the next parliament will be in 30 days time.
Yes.
All right.
That's right.
So by common sense, they move the lower threshold for the presidential election from September and brought it to the upper threshold, which is 7th December, to coincide with the 30 days timeline for MPs. That is why we have 7th December for both, for election of both the president and members of parliament. Now, this created some problems in 208, if you recall, when we had to do a runoff. And after the runoff, we had to wait for time, for the time constituency results, in order to even determine the outcome of the presidential election.
Yeah.
So since then, there have been some discussions. This led to the formation of the Electoral Reform Commission in 2015, consisting of Dr. Ransford Jampo and all. Let me give you their membership. the membership of that committee. Quick,
Yes.
I'll give you the member.
Quick one, while you round up.
Yes. So we had Mr. Kamna, that's General Siodun Ketia, Mr. Kamna J. Ajepon, Mrs. Georgina Opokwa Mankwa, Mrs. Rebecca Kabuki Ajalo, Mr. James Kwamna Bonfe of the CPP, Mr. and Kofi Addo of the Yes People's Party, Dr. Ransford Jampo of the IEA at the time, Mr. Kwesi Jonah of the IDEC also at the time, and Dr. Franklin Odru. These were the members of the then Electoral Reforms Commission.
Okay.
They submitted a report to government and the Electoral Commission. So as a result of that, the government at the time came to Parliament with a bill. Now, the argument of the opposition at the time was that they advocated for the bill to amend 1124, Article 1124 of the Constitution, to have been brought in the same year, 2015. But I think because of the IMF and financial difficulties. So eventually it was brought in 2016. So the argument in 2016, if you read the Hansard, now I'll read the Hansard copiously for you if you have time. I brought it.
Unfortunately.
We don't have to. We can have another day for this. So Chairman, for instance, on the floor was saying that it was a good idea, but when we amend the Constitution with the act that will be emanating from that bill, we should suspend its operation.
Right.
And make the 7th November idea, give Electoral Commission enough time to come with regulations, that's a constitutional instrument, CI, to be able to implement it for the 2020 general elections.
Okay.
But in the opinion of the Attorney General, you cannot amend the Constitution and suspend its operation.
Okay.
So they disagreed.
Right.
Yes, they disagreed. She was of the opinion that if you use a statute, an enactment to amend the Constitution, you cannot. Parliament has the power to suspend the operation of law. You know that. So, but she was of the opinion that, and it's in the Hansard. When that statute is to amend a portion of the Constitution, Parliament has no power to say that even though we are amending the Constitution, we are suspending the operation of the portion of that Constitution.
Okay.
This was what brought the problem.
I see.
So the MPP voted against the bill, and the bill got lost. At the second reading, at the stage of debating the principles and philosophy underpinning the bill, they voted against it. Okay. So a very simple bill got lost. The argument they made was that they couldn't have introduced it in an election year. So why are they introducing it now in an election? And this shouldn't be championed by EC. It ought to have been championed by the government.
Okay.
Because this is an amendment to the Constitution. It's not the duty of the EC to do that. It's the duty of government to do that.
And guess what? Because even IPAC, there was no resolution on this matter. This is not the end of this conversation, because we will definitely have it again. There's some breaking news that came through not long ago, so I just got to put it out. President Akufo-Addo has announced the revocation of appointment of 24 district chief executives with immediate effect. This is contained in the letter you are seeing on the screen right now by the president, dated February 2. It says the president will announce their replacements in due course. You see, this is by the local government minister, signed there in accordance with Article 2433.
This is by the president.
Yes, as you see there.
Yeah.
And the Section 23 of the Local Government Act 2014. I write to inform you that I have revoked the appointment of the following persons: Martin Apia Nyantechi, Ahafuano North, Neil Late Olenu, Amansie West, Daniel Oredu, Nkranza South, Alhaji Abdullahi Adams, Pro East, Bamsome, Jerome Kofi Jima, Sene East, Joseph Edu, Ewutu Senya West, Samuel Kwame Ejekum, Esojaman, thank you. Aset Asante, Etiwa West, Comfort Asante, New Jabe North, Isaac Kojo, Boabeng, Nsawama Doejiri, Daniel Alexander Ninoy Adomwa Adenta, constituency, Mohammed Bashiru, Kamara, Amwa, Boga East, Tahir, Isako, Ahmed, Boga, that's Boko West, and Aisha, Batonko, that's Sisala West, Seth Kwesi Agbi, Southong, that's Sugakupe. I see, Patrick Hodgson, Amponting, Memphis Central, and Docas Elizabeth Amwa in Zima East. So this is signed by the president to the attention of the Damboche Minister for Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development. That is the news just coming through. Thank you very much for staying with us here on Key Point, and to you, Loyamatic people. So always thank you, appreciate your time. And
sir, we didn't get time to talk about 52.5 billion that has been lost for years.
You know, I promised you that is a subject that we're going to get into. It's very important. I thank you so much, Lawyer Nelson Eche Dafiamepo, MP for the South Dike constituency, private legal practitioner as well, and to you, and the Apia Kubi, Member of Parliament for the Asante Achim North constituency, private legal practitioner as well. My name is Alfred Okanse. On behalf of the rest of the team, we thank you as well for staying with us, and also to many of you for the feedback. Thank you.